Okay, anyway, all right. I'm horrible about that. All right, so here we go. So we're going to, in this problem, let me talk to you quickly about the differences in these. One, this has a number over here. Two, this has a square root and a minus x, and we can't have a square root and a minus x on the same side. So before you solve any of these radical equations, step number one is to move the x. I don't care what else you're doing, all right? So I'm going to move that x to the right-hand side. So I have 16 minus 6x is equal to x, okay? All right, so I'm going to skip this part right now, and I'm going to show you a different way to do the same exact thing, but we're going to solve the equation the same way, all right? And that way, if you don't like this and this stuff up here is confusing, then you just don't even have to do it, okay? So we're going to solve this equation the same way we did number 5, and that is but you have to get this square root on the side by itself. And so to solve this, I'm going to square both sides. Okay. When I do that, I'm going to get over here on the left-hand side, I'm going to get 16 minus 6x. And on the right-hand side, I'm going to get x squared. Okay, so now what I see is a quadratic equation. And so going back and thinking about what we talked about yesterday, with a quadratic equation, I have to set it equal to 0 in order to solve it. So I would really prefer to have that x squared as a positive x squared. So I'm going to leave the x squared over here, and I'm going to move everything else across the equal sign, changing its signs. So I have 0 is equal to x squared. And then that's going to be a plus 6x because it moved across, and a minus 16. Okay, notice they changed signs when they moved across. Okay, it doesn't matter whether the x squared plus 6x minus 16 is on the left side or the right side. I can still factor it to solve it. Okay, so I'm going to have 0 is equal to, and I'm going to factor this, and I'm going to have x, and I'm going to have 1 plus and 1 minus because of a negative here. And it looks like I'm going to have a plus 8 and a minus 2. Okay. So far, so good. Stop me now if not. Okay. All right. So again, I'm going to take each factor, and I'm going to set it equal to 0, and I'm going to solve for x. And so I'm going to get x is equal to negative 8, and x is equal to positive 2. Now, here's the problem. I have to check. Now, in the previous problem, I checked by saying, okay, is 24 fit this image? And this image said x had to be greater than negative 1/2. And I said, yeah, 24 was. So the alternate way to check this is to say, okay, I'm going to come over here to the side, and I'm going to check. And I'm going to check x is equal to negative 8, and I'm going to check x is equal to positive 2. And I'm going back to the original equation. And when I substitute those values in on the left-hand side, I better get 0 when I finish simplifying this. So here's my check. I'm going to make sure it's separated here. So I have the square root of 16 minus 6 times negative 8 minus, now be careful here, negative 8. And this should equal to 0, right? If I've done this correctly, that's what I should get. So I'm going to have the square root of 16 plus 48 plus 8. And let's see if this is going to be 0. This gives me the square root of 64 plus 8. Well, the square root of 64 is 8, and 8 plus 8 is not equal to 0. Okay, so negative 8 is not a solution. All right, so it's not a solution. Okay, so now I'm going to check 2. So I have the square root of 16 minus 6 times 2 minus 2. And is this equal to 0? So now I'm going to have 16 minus 12 minus 2, the square root of 4 minus 2. Square root of 4 is 2, and 2 minus 2 is indeed 0. So x is equal to 2 is the only solution. Okay? All right? Are we good with the solving and the checking? Does anybody have a question about that?
So the check that you just did is like just a different way to check from the first one.
Correct. Now, if you will give me just a little bit of leeway here, I'm going to show you the other. And okay, now I'm gonna preface this by, if you are just like, just stop, just shut up and be quiet because I got this and don't go any further, then you go right ahead and think that, and you just tune me out for about 3 minutes, okay? Because here is how to check it this method, and you can skip this part. So you have to do one of these two. So what has to be true is what's underneath the radical, this part right here, has to be positive, okay? It has to be, it's actually greater than or equal to 0, okay? And so if I take what's underneath that radical and I solve this little, I know we haven't talked about inequalities yet in here, but I also know some of you remember how to solve inequalities from previous courses. So if you absolutely don't, then that's okay. So if I subtract 16 from both sides, everything's good. When I divide by this -6, when you divide by a negative, you turn the inequality around. So this becomes x is less than or equal to 16 over 6. Okay? That was something. I think I lost something. And this is x has to be less than, something weird just happened here. So we may not do this. I think I messed up something. What the heck did I do? We got too many complicated things in here because we also have to have, yeah, because, okay, never mind. I'm pointing to my screen and y'all can't see me pointing to the screen. Yeah, we're not going to do this because we also have to have x is greater than 0 because of this x hanging out by itself. Okay, so we're going to pretend that I didn't say anything. Can y'all pretend I didn't say anything? Y'all were tuning me out anyway, so it's okay, right? So, okay. Never mind. Don't listen to me. We're not going to use this method because I just realized it's going to make life really complicated. So, Justin, you are amazing. Thank you very much. Does that make you happy? We're not going to do that. But you do have to check. You have to check. Check is very important. Important. That's an I. That's an important. You have to check. Okay. I'm so sorry. I thought we were going to do this other fabulous thing, and then I just realized it was going to become more complicated. Sometimes I have great ideas and they crash and burn, and I apologize. All right. Questions about solving this? Because we're going to do 2 more of them and they get a little bit more complicated. So I need to make sure we're okay squaring both sides, isolating our radical, checking our solutions. We only have this one solution. Questions. Does anybody not understand why -8 doesn't work? All went to sleep on me after the lesson. You can pay attention again. I'm done messing that up. Okay. Last 2 problems. I know, that's amazing. Okay, so on this one, I do have the square root on the side by itself, but we have to be really, really careful because I am going to square both sides just like I did on the last one. So I'm going to square my square root and I'm going to square my x minus 7. Here's where we got to work. So on the left-hand side, I get x minus 1. That's amazing. On the right-hand side, I get x squared minus 14x plus 49. I do not get x squared plus 49. And I'm going to stop, pause, catch my breath, drink a sip of my water, and let you process that and ask me a question if you don't know where I got something from. Well, good.
Where'd the 14 come from?
Thank you. I was waiting for that. Somebody needed to ask me that. Okay. So x minus 7 squared is x minus 7 times x minus 7. Okay. And so when I FOIL this out, I get x squared minus 7x minus 7x plus 49, which gives me x squared minus 14x plus 49. Okay, remember that from when we did multiplication of polynomials? And that's usually where people make the most mistakes with these problems, is they forget about squaring that binomial, okay? And the shortcut way, if you remember, is to square the first one and then 2 times that middle. You can multiply it out. I'm going to take that little shortcut there just for time and space sake, but you are welcome to go to the side and multiply it out, or just multiply the whole thing out and take that extra step. Just don't forget, it's not just the first term and the second term squared, okay? All right. And I assure you, you were not the only one with that question. You were just the only one who was going to ask it, so thank you. Okay. All right, so now we're back to an equation with a quadratic. And so we're going to move everything over to the right-hand side and set it equal to 0. So as I do that, I'm going to have 0 is equal to x squared. Now, I'm not going to write this down, but I am going to tell you as I do this. So I'm subtracting one x from both sides, and so that's going to give me a negative 14x. And I'm adding 1 to both sides, so I have plus 50. And if anybody wants to see that, let me know. But I subtracted my x from both sides and I added my 1 to both sides. All right, so now I'm going to factor this. And so this nice quadratic will factor. That's why it was very important that we practiced our quadratic factoring. So I factored this, I have 2 minus signs. Factors of 50 that give me 15 are 10 and 5. That was pretty nice. I take each factor and I set it equal to 0 and I solve for x. I get x is equal to 10 and I get x is equal to 5. But what do I need to do now? Anybody and everybody. And I just write in and solve and say my solutions are 10 and 5. Or if you read the directions at the top of the page, what do the directions say? Yes, we need to check. Thank you very much. So in order to check these, I'm going to go back to the original problem. So here's going to be my check. So I'm going to check x is equal to 10. And I'm going to check x is equal to 5, right? So when I check x is equal to 10, I have the square root of 10 minus 1 on the left-hand side. I need to know this relationship to 10 minus 7. So I'm plugging 10 in for both of my x's. This gives me the square root of 9, and 10 minus 7 is 3. And the square root of 9 is indeed equal to 3. So 10 is a solution. So x is equal to 10 is a good solution. So we're good there. So now I'm going to check 5. Sometimes both numbers work, sometimes neither number works, and sometimes only one works, okay? So just keep that in mind. Just because you find one doesn't mean you're done, okay? So when x is equal to 5, I have the square root of 5 minus 1. This gives me the square root of 4, right? And 5 minus 7 is negative 2. The last time I checked, the square root of 4 was 2, and 2 was not equal to negative 2. So this one is not a solution. So the only solution is x is equal to 10. All right, questions? Okay, so here's what I want you to do. We're going to solve the next one, number 8. Okay, Amber, I know that you're driving, so do not try to do this as you're driving. That is not cool, okay? but I want everybody to try to solve number 8. You're going to do exactly the same thing. Square both sides, move everything over to one side, solve your quadratic, and then you're going to check, okay? And then you're going to send me a private chat and tell me what you got for your solution. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to do this, all right? And I expect an answer from everybody but Amber, who I hope is still hanging out with us.
I am.
Okay. Make sure you don't put your answer in the chat to everybody, because I don't want everybody else to see each other's answers. I want you to each work it. Oh, so neat. We'll work it together too, so. And if you're trying to figure out the chat thing, you should have a little bubble that pops up, and you should be able to pull down and chat just to me. So. Where it says everyone right above where you chatted, you pull down the little menu and pick me. Oh, it's just too fast for me. Okay. I'm ceasing to answer because y'all are doing it really, really well over here. So, okay. So if you're not quite done, that's okay. If you are done, then you can kind of look here, and I'm starting to work this out. So I'm squaring both sides. When I square x plus 6 squared, remember I get x squared plus 12x plus 36, okay? And this is equal to 6 minus x because I squared that square root, okay? Yes, yes, I'm getting fabulous. Y'all are really good. Y'all have checked your answers. I'm so proud of y'all. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to have x squared plus, I'm adding that x to both sides, 13x, subtracting 6 from both sides, and I'm going to have plus, not plus 10, plus 30. That's a terrible looking 30. Sorry about that. Okay. And so plus 30. And this is equal to 0. Okay? And so now I can factor this. And this is going to factor into x plus 3 and x plus 10. Keep sending me your answers. I'm not ceasing on that. So keep sending me your answers. So this, I'm going to set each factor equal to 0. All right. So each factor equal to 0, and I get two solutions. I get -3 and I get -10. Okay. Now, they're both negative. So a lot of times people go, oh, well, everything else has been the negative answers didn't work. Well, we had two positive answers up here and one of them didn't work. So you probably ought to check both those negatives. So when I go over here to check, I check x is equal to -3. Okay. And so make sure that you're getting to this -3 when you go there. And so when I plug in -3, I have -3 plus 6 on the right-hand side. And I need to know, is this equal to the square root of 6 minus -3? Watch that, be careful. This is the square root of 9, and the square root of 9 is indeed equal to 3. So indeed, x is equal to -3 is the solution, okay? And so now I'm going to check x is equal to -10 because that's my second solution. When I plug in -10, I have -10 plus 6. I have the square root of 6 minus -10. On this side, I'm going to end up with the square root of 16. But on the left-hand side, I get -4. And -4 is not equal to +4. Okay? So -10 is not a solution. Okay. So my only solution is -3. Be super, super careful when you solve that, because if it's multiple choice, and even if it's not, if you type in both answers, it's going to be wrong. If it's multiple choice, you're going to see both possible answers. So you really need to be able to make sure you know how to check those. Okay. All right. It's never a bad idea to check any of your answers. Okay, so at this point, y'all did great. I think that even those of you who missed it figured out what to do before I ever got to it. So kudos, excellent. Very good. Okay. And now everybody knows how to chat privately, so that's amazing too. I don't know whether that's amazing. Don't chat among, well, I guess you can chat amongst yourselves. I don't care. All right. So questions about this material, because this is like, it's several different types of equations that we're solving. We have a couple more. We're going to talk about absolute value equations, and then we're going to talk about solving inequalities on Monday. But I really want to just stop here and give you a chance to work on the homework. The homework number 2 that's due today. If you're to the point that you're rocking the homework and everything's great, if you've got questions about the quiz, if you've got questions about the homework, now's a great time to ask those questions. If you want to ask me individually, then I can chat with you, or we can set up a time to do a separate WebEx when I get done with my second class, or whatever you want. So now is your time, and if you don't have questions and you don't want to listen to anybody else's questions, then you can go work on your homework. You can leave this on as long as you want to. So, all right. Questions.
I do have a quick question regarding the second quiz today.
Okay, what about it?
I reached out to you last night about the lockdown browser not activating.
Yes, and that's fixed now. So when you take it the second time, that lockdown browser should kick in.
Okay, cool.
That was totally on me, and it was just, I don't know what happened, but I got it all fixed. So I thank you for letting me know that. So yep, we're good. Did I not reply back to you?
You did.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm just making sure. Sometimes I think I do and I forget. So
I just wanted to double check because once it started up, I thought, oh no.
yeah, no, I understand that. So Anybody else? Okay. Well, since y'all are being stinking quiet and waiting for other people to ask questions, here's what I'm going to do. If you want to ask me individual questions, what I will do is I'm going to actually close this session. And I'm recording this anyway, part of it anyway.